शांत शांत शांति. हरि ओम. श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः. हरि ओम. Come quickly, come quickly. In our Vedic Sanatana Hindu system, we talk of the fourth Purushartha as the very purpose of life. What are the four Purusharthas? Please say it, otherwise I'll be shocked. Don't keep staring at me. I'm like, what is happening? What are it? Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. So in that sequence, what is the fourth one? Moksha. So you might have seen, thanks to Mahabharata and Ramayana, Ramanand Sagar and B.R. Chopra, that when somebody does namaskar, you hear the Ashirvad, right? Vijayi Bhav, Sukhi Bhav, right? So many a sadhu, when you do namaskar to them, you would hear them say, Chaturtha Purushartha Praptirastu. Dharma, Artha, Kama, your Prarabdha will reveal. For millions of lives that we have, it will come anyways. But a special blessings is definitely required for the fourth Purushartha, which is Moksha, realization, liberation, Mukti, Nirvana, Kaivalya, various names for the same thing, which have been adapted into the Indic based or under the umbrella of Sanatana Dharma. It is used by Jain, Bauddha, they use the same terms. Sikhism, I would not put it as a separate religion. We have several sampradayas within Hinduism. That is one among those sampradayas. It's not me saying it, it is their own 10 gurus who have laid it out that way. What about these separatists? खाली स्थान है, क्या करें? जब भरेगा तो उनको भी समझ में आ जाएगा. But otherwise, it is a part of the Vedic Sanatana Sampradaya only. According to our Vedic Sanatana Hindu Sampradaya, what does moksha mean? Question पूछा है मैंने. Everybody is like, freedom from identifying ourselves as this limitation called body, mind and intellect. Okay, what else? Self-realization. Shifting of our identity from lower self to the higher self. You wanted to say something? Birth, rebirth cycle coming to a culmination. तो ठीक से बोल दो ना प्लीज। अहम ब्रह्मास्मि। मुझे सुनाई नहीं दिया, जोर से, जोर से। Aham Brahmasmi. That is the experience of that realization. Moksha, the root word is mukta. Mukta means to liberate oneself. To be released from all the bondages, all the limitations, to be released. If you have a long ailment and you are demoted from ICU to the general ward and stay there, recover, then go to rehab, stay there, recover, and finally when you are out of that system, what do they say? That you are blank from the hospital. You are not liberated, you are discharged. When you are in the prison, if you are in a prison, in being in Vijayawada, I have been to the prison about a dozen times as a teacher. So not when, but if you are in a prison, the fellow that is in the prison, when they finish their term and they get to come out, that is called, they are blank from the prison, released from the prison. You don't get moksha from the hospital. You are willingly going in there, you are willingly getting yourself rehabilitated with health, and then you are discharged having gained that. But a prison is a thrusted environment where we are bound. There are many things that which is our which are our responsibilities, duties, rights, they get suspended. It's a very enclosed environment which binds us and takes away various aspects of our life, living. They are suspended. When do you get back to the original glory? When you are released from that bondage. Just to understand the difference. Similarly, in our Vaidika, Sanatana, Hindu Dharma, fourth Purushartha is the purpose of life. The fourth Purushartha is moksha. Moksha means to liberate oneself from all possible, known, unknown limitations that end up binding us. Meaning, you and I, until we realize we are in a prison system which cannot be seen, heard, smelt, tasted or touched. Why? That through which we see, hear, smell, taste, touch itself is the prison. Am I getting across? And to be released from this is called moksha, that is the purpose of life. And how does one realize this? Self. How many paths are there to realize this self? By releasing ourselves from this limitation or bondage. How many pathways are suggested in our Vaidika Hindu Sanatana Dharma? Huh? Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Jnana Yoga. Karma Bhakti leads to Jnana, Jnana gives moksha. Any other variations of answers? According to our scriptural knowledge and wisdom, the moksha that has been defined as liberating oneself from all the limitations, all possible known and unknown factors that limit us, there is only one path. That should be the immediate answer. And what is that one path of liberation? The Upanishad says, Jnanat evatu kaivalyam. ज्ञान के अलावा और कोई मार्ग प्रशस्त नहीं कर सकता अपने मोक्ष के लिए. Jnana alone is the path for moksha. So, having given the statement, now I will re-ask the question. As defined by our Vaidika Sanatana Hindu Dharma, liberation is the purpose of life, and how many paths are there that one attains this moksha? What should be the answer? Unanimously there should be one answer, and it is only through jnana. What about the other paths? All paths lead to that supreme alone. Indirectly maybe, but directly no. What are all the different paths known within the umbrella of Hindu Sanatana Dharma, Vaidika Sanatana Dharma, as the paths? Different paths that we talk about. I've heard somebody from a pulpit say that, like when you want to go to the top of the mountain, sometimes you go through the ropeway, sometimes you rock climb, sometimes you go on the steps, sometimes you can probably be dropped by the helicopter, sometimes parachuting in, and as there are different paths to reach to that top, similarly for moksha there are several paths. Nonsense. There is only one path. And what is that one path? Louder. I have to read your lips. So what is one path? There are several other paths that seem to be prescribed. Now, what is the validity of those? There is karma, there is bhakti, there is dhyana, there is bhakti and upasana are the same. There is Ashtanga Yoga, Kriya Yoga, anything to add? So if you had attended the Bhagavad Gita series that I used to do in the morning, to remove all this confusion, there is a beautiful introduction given by Bhagavan Sri Adi Shankaracharya ji on Bhagavad Gita, where he says, there are two paths, one for external, one for internal. The external and the internal paths, where the external stops, that is where the internal begins. One is called Nivritti Marga, the other one is called Pravritti Marga. What is a thought called in Sanskritam? Mano, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankara, they are all thought formats. But what is a thought called in the building block? One thought, what is it called? What were you saying? Vritti. Chintana. No, that is, in Sanskritam, socha means, the root word is shoka, sorrow. Nanu shochanti panditaha, shocha. In Hindi, soch is thinking. I am asking about Sanskritam. In Sanskritam, what does thought mean? Thought is called as vritti. Why is it called as a vritti? Vritta. Vritta means that which is cyclical, spherical, round in shape or order. It is called vritta. Right? In mathematics also, vrittakara means, this is vrittakara. Vrittakara, circular. In maybe another couple of years, when complete deforestation happens, what you see would be called as vrittakara. My ideal is sitting there. Vrittakara. Vrittakara is in the shape or form, or in the conceptual way. Vritta means spherical, cyclical, round, they are all vritta. Thought is called vritti. It has the cyclical nature. Generated from the antakarana, it goes through the organs of perception, perceives the world, and then comes back with that data into that antakarana. There is a cycle completed. The reason I took this example is there is internal also. There is Vishaya. The vritti itself becomes the Vishaya, and the vritti, the thought itself, is the one that is enjoying or thinking about it. Like when you are thinking of your beloved, the most endearing one, you close your eyes, think about your family, children, whoever, when you are thinking, they are not there. Your vritti, your thought itself has become that which is being cherished, enjoyed, memorable. It will be difficult, therefore I took an external example. That from the antakarana, the thought pattern begins, it goes through the organs of perception, comes back through the organs of perception to the antakarana, antakarana to antakarana, a round trip. Therefore it is called vritti. A louder form of this vritti in expression is called pravritti. Pravritti, that which expresses as our action interacting with the world around, world of things and beings around, when we interact with it, that is called pravritti. Pravritti then becomes the character of that individual. And what is the character called in Sanskritam or Hindi? Us vyakti ki charitra, character. Character is when you are repeating the same pravritti over a period of time in the same similar looking patterns, it becomes your characteristics. It It all starts with that vritti. Vritti, when prakatita vrittayaha, when expresses action, what is it called? Pravritti, prakatita. It is expressed loudly through word or deed, becomes pravritti. Opposite to that, nivritti, when it is withdrawn, willfully withdrawn. Consciously withdrawn. When that vritti is in your control, accessibility and balance, and you have the ability to withdraw it while being in the field of interactables of things and beings, you still have the capacity to withdraw all of it into the antakarana and balance it there. That is called nivritti. The entire field of pravritti is called karma. Any kind of action, selfish and selfless, is called karma. Am I getting across? Therefore, the field of actions come under karma. Upasana, bhakti, is it an action? Comes under karma. Yogasanas, pranayama, does it come under action? We do enact it, therefore it comes under the umbrella of action, karma. Dhyana, is it an action? Contemplation, nididhyasana, is it an action? Yes or no? Very good. You have to carry this clarity forward, right? Don't forget that aspect. If there is somebody saying you meditate to realize, and if it is being sold as Hinduism, that you have to meditate to realize, या तो खुद बेवकूफ है या आपको बेवकूफ बनाना चाहता है या दोनों. Meditation, let me complete. Meditation is not a process through which you realize. Realization doesn't happen through meditation. It is an action. Now what happens in the field of action? Actions are limited. Through actions we create, morph or destroy. Shapes, forms, sizes. Realization is not something that which can be created, not something that can be morphed, not something that can be destroyed. It is my swarupa, it is my nature which I have to understand and abide in, which I already am. Therefore, dhyana does not give realization. Ab pucho question. Even samadhi is an abhyasa. Abhyasa is an activity. It does not give you moksha. As simple as that. What about when they say that you have to do your upasana and have Bhagavat Sakshatkara? In that Bhagavat Sakshatkara, isn't that Bhagavat Sakshatkara moksha? No, it is not. Dhruva, Prahlada, Nachiketa, all of them had Bhagavat Sakshatkara. What was Bhagavan's message to all of them? Now that you have seen me, Bhagavan says himself, now that you have seen me in this Sakshatkara, your chitta has become purified. With this purified mind, sit down under the feet of the Guru, learn the Mahavakya and abide yourself in the experience of that Mahavakya. Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto is Prahlada Charitra, 4th canto is Dhruva Charitra. Read shloka by shloka, you will see that Bhagavan himself, having given a direct visual darshan to that devotee, is stating very clearly कि बस देखने मात्र से उसको हम अपने हिंदू वैदिक सनातन धर्म में मोक्ष नहीं कहते. Even that Bhagavan's advice is, having thus seen, your antakarana is purified thereby. Now go to a master and abide in that pointers given by Mahavakya. So there are other sampradayas where they say moksha means attaining to sayujya, salokya, sarupya, samipya. That your Ishta Devata is in Vaikuntha, then you go salokya. You also reach to that loka. Salokya. Samipya, you are close to that Bhagavan in that loka. Salokya, Samipya. You have served Bhagavan, and in his blessings you have attained a similar form as Bhagavan. Sarupya. Sayujya, you have gotten the ability to serve, be the personal servant of Bhagavan. Still cannot be called as moksha. Still it is a limitation. What is the first story of Bhagavatam? The reason I keep referring to Bhagavatam is the highest text of bhakti. Jaya Vijaya, who are in Vaikuntha, in Sarupya, Salokya, Samipya, Sayujya of Bhagavan Narayana Sri Hari himself, when the Sanat Kumaras enter into that Vaikuntha, inadvertently they stop their pathway, which is a tamasic quality of being unconscious. Therefore, they are cursed to drop their Salokya, Samipya, Sarupya, Samipya, Sayujya of that Vaikuntha and Bhagavan Sri Hari. They come down 3 times. I mean, of course, Bhagavan pleaded on their behalf. He was their attorney. And then pleaded with who? His own bhaktas, Sanat Kumaras. They reduced their shapa to 3 terms. Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, Ravana, Kumbhakarna, and Shishupala, Vajradanti. No, Dantavakra. 3 terms they come down, and all 3 terms Bhagavan comes to rescue them and take them back to Vaikuntha. That is his greatness. But can that protect being in close association, being in the very loka that Bhagavan is? Nazar hati, durghatna ghati. Even smallest truti, smallest mistake, the punishment will be high. Because bhakti is also considered as limitation. All of this comes under karma. Now, what should our attitude be through karma? See, when they say we do yogasanas, what they mean? We do yogasanas and pranayama for moksha. Ghanta kuch nahi milega, moksha nahi milega. What will happen is chitta shuddhi, chitta ekagrata, it helps. Bhakti, chitta shuddhi, chitta ekagrata, and a special power that the mind has been touched by Bhagavan and his darshana. So the ekagrata is immeasurable. It cannot be shaken after that. But yet it has to be applied into that which is being pointed by the Mahavakya, and abide in that knowledge and wisdom as my own true nature. You have a question? No. It is knowing. Knowing is not an action. No, there is no learning. The self in itself is self-illumining. No, this learning and this karma is not giving you moksha. The example, best example to clear all that is in Mahabharata war is yet to start. Karna is told, your biological mother is right here. Do you want to check and clarify? By none other than Bhagavan Krishna himself. He gives this information to who? Karna. There is a set appointment with Kunti Devi. Kunti Devi and Karna meet that late evening, and he asks, it seems you have a sixth child. Can I know who it is? Then she says the exact words in Mahabharata, He Karna, Tat Tvam Asi. You are that. The moment he hears Tattvam Asi, does he start levitating? Is there a halo around his head? No. He was made to be aware of the fact, and the moment he was aware of that fact, realizing that that which I have asked is me alone. In that knowing, there is no doing. Your question is about up until that point. I am not considering that. Just knowing, jnanam eva tu kaivalyam. In jnana, in knowing, there is no doing. Up until that point, the karma, bhakti, ashtanga yoga, pranayama, this help you to reach to that point. Having reached there, action ceases. Only knowing exists. That which is the self, who does not require even the mind or the intellect or the antakarana, because of which we are aware of the external world, that is not the process in which this knowing happens. Because the outside world depends on the learning. This knowing is the self reflecting upon itself, not reflecting, shining upon itself to be recognizing its own self. Another second example, when you light a lamp in a dark space, before it can illumine anything else and anyone else, what is it first illumining? Its own presence. Is it doing anything? No. That is called realization. Therefore, jnana is the only method. No other method. You may do countless hours of very selfless activity, countless hours of bhakti, countless hours of chanting, countless hours of japa, countless hours of pranayama, yogasanas. It will take you to only that point where it is called chitta shuddhi, chitta ekagrata. The field of antakarana, the mana buddhi chitta, stops there. In that paused silence, I drop this identity of being this individuality to know that the essence of this individuality is that conscious principle alone. In that knowing, there is no intellect involved. The moment intellect gets involved, it becomes a processed information. The knowledge of self is not a processed information. Therefore, in Kenopanishad, there is a beautiful dialogue between student and the teacher. The teacher asks, "Did you understand?" He asks the students, after having explained everything, he asks, "Did you understand?" So the first student to whom that question was asked, he stands up and says, "Yes." "Shut up, you have not understood anything, go meditate," he says. Everybody is like shocked. He is one of the brilliant students and he got up to say, and he was shut down. Oh my God, where are we missing it? Then the next student gets up. When he was asked, then he says, "I think I understand, but that which illumines that thinking is what can be experienced but cannot be understood by the intellect. Nona vedeti vedacha." That which illumines the knowing, as its very nature is to illumine, to abide in it. Abide in it, to realize that it is me and not this limited, that abiding is not an action therefore. Up until then, these processes that are there, they are meant for cleaning, purifying and bringing to the focal point. And in that quietude, in that silence, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa ji gives a very good example. A salt doll that was made. A salt doll that was made, who was told that its origin is quite close by. It goes to the ocean. As it rushes into the waves that are seemingly welcoming its baby, the salt doll. As it gets into that ocean, what happens to that doll? Therefore, Kabir Das ji says, प्रेम की गली अति सांकरी जिसमें दो न समाये, जब मैं था तब हरि नाही, अब हरि है तो मैं नाही. And I, that conscious being, is that Hari. So therefore, how many paths in Hinduism for self-realization? Thank you. Can others who are practicing other religions realize this? I am yet to see a religion that defines realization this way. And if it is defined this way, then this method alone has to be applied, and if this is not applied, there cannot be realization. If there are realizations, we use that word quite normally, right? As I stepped out of the house, I realized I had not turned the stove. So you are a realized master of the stupid act of forgetfulness. Is that called realization according to Vaidika Hindu Sanatana Dharma? Can it be called as an enlightenment? The Western world has their own period of enlightenment. Can that be equated to this enlightenment? Yes or no? So don't get confused. There is only one path, and according to this definition, this can be the only method. अब किसी ने और कुछ define किया हो तो good for them. We are not competing, and it cannot be claimed as this. If this is it, then it has to be only through this knowledge of knowing my own true nature. Is that clear? So having understood this, what is the practicality, pragmatic way of putting it into practice? Spirituality, therefore, according to our Vaidika Sanatana Hindu Dharma, is not just about sitting at the altar and doing some specific puja, japa, karma kanda, ityadi upasanas, but to carry that conscious mindset, to constantly align every thought to that Ishtadevata, which is what is called Chitta Ekagrata. When pointed by our own teachers, the realized ones, that this is your nature, bringing that Chitta Ekagra Mana, Chitta Shuddha Mana, to that point of understanding, and then to know it and abide in it. Then why are we suggested so much of meditation? Meditation or nididhyasana is not for realizing the self, but because we have lived in this limited sense of identity, calling ourselves as body, mind and intellect. Supposing you have driven for 14-15 years the same car, and you sold it and you bought a new one. The initial period, do you not keep searching for that old one, only to realize that that is not yours anymore? This is called the errors of habitual existence. It has become a habit. So though there is that realization, this identity might creep in again and again. In Adi Shankaracharyaji's own language, he calls it as, when you go to the pond, there is this water green moss that grows, you push it away. With the metal pot or whatever pot that you are taking, you push that, it goes away. You dip this, take it, as soon as you turn around, what happens to that moss again? To remove those habitual errors, we have to intensify our nididhyasana, and not for realization. There is a huge difference. समझ में आया? Yes, no? सब कुछ समझ में आया, बस कुछ नहीं समझ में आया. बहुत अच्छा था पर कुछ समझ में नहीं आया. There's still one more week, so listen to it. It is recorded. Come back if you have any questions. Can you fine tune your question? Stopping of the cycle of birth and death is the byproduct of knowing and realizing my true nature. If there is a warrant issued to catch a thug, CIA, FBI, NIA, local police, top squads, black squads or whatever, all of them have zeroed in on that particular address. They have put a fence and a barricade. They knock on the door, nobody opens, they bang into it and go there to find that that thug is already dead. What happens to the warrant issued? What happens to the warrant issued? It is valid only when the individual is there. When the individual itself is gone, what happens to the warrant? It stands null and void. So the janma and the repetition of that janma is of that individuality. When that individuality itself has liberated from that limitation to merge into the completeness of the supreme conscious being, there is no more individuality left. When the individuality itself is not there, what happens to the birth and repetition of that birth and death of that individuality? Stands null and void. Therefore, punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam cycle has been broken. So, it is a byproduct of it, it is not the purpose of it. So, when people say that, oh, realized masters come back as avatars, nonsense. Cannot happen. If they are realized, they cannot come back. Oh, Swami Vivekananda reborn, Swami Chinmayananda reborn. It may be a figure of speech, but in practicality, in logical way, it cannot happen. That individuality is gone. Am I getting across? I don't want to take much time. I could have explained it with the examples of waves and the ocean and the essence being water. So try meditating on that and you'll have further clarity. अरे लास्ट है कि नहीं मैं डिसाइड करूंगा. हाँ पूछो. हाँ knowing happens as Chaitanya. Because of that knowing, the ignorance that is in the mind, that gets washed away. Knowing is Chaitanya, but because of that, what happens in the mind, there is ignorance. That ignorance vanishes. दीप के जलने के तुरंत अंधकार गायब हो जाता है. That mind with the andhakara is the mind. Me realizing my true nature is this conscious illumining being, as soon as that happens, that andhakara vanishes. Of the mind. That is where the confusion is. That is where the limitation is. क्वेश्चन क्या है? Chaitanya is illumination, and the moment that understanding dawns, what is happening with respect to mind is that the limitation and the ignorance is wiped out. So who is getting realized? No one. Whose identity is being wiped out is the individuals. After that, it is play of words. That's why I stopped. Okay. There's one more week, and after that, another week, and I fly off back to India. Just last week, I got to know that it would be the Chinmaya Ashram, outskirts of Vijayawada, 40 kilometers from Vijayawada, that I will be going into. It is a very rural environment. You have seen it, right? The nearest village that you have to cross is about 3.5 kilometers or 4 kilometers. So, in a radius of 5 kilometers, there is only green paddy fields. And there is a Krishna river, that perennial river that flows through that city, Vijayawada. An irrigation canal is right across the ashram. There is electricity, there is no internet. If there is no, हाँ जी, cell tower connection है. I'm talking of internet, the physical wire lining. Starlink doesn't work from there. From India, Starlink doesn't work. हाँ जी. I will be sending the address and everything in an email. The exact place is Chinmaya Sitaram Ashram. So if you have a phone, open the maps. If you can open it quickly. నేను చెప్తున్నా నేనున్నాను కదా, నేను చెప్తాను. SEET. The moment you type that much, drop down, you will find the first link, click it. It's not SIT, it is SEE. Digga? There are two squares on the right hand side on the map. Click that. It will open up an option for satellite. Click that satellite and zoom out. You will see a radius of 5 kilometers. There is absolutely nothing other than greenery. So that is where I will be going. I have been associated with that ashram since its inception into Chinmaya Mission. That is exactly where last year January I was installing and doing the Prana Pratishtha of 27 deities, 27 at least deities. And it seems like nothing seems to be a coincidence. It seems very well laid out and organized. Me being, or my Ishtadeva being Hanuman, my life is jumping from one center to the other, with Rama being the main presiding deity. So I came from Vijayawada, the same Sitaram ashram. I came here, Saket expanded into Chitrakoot became Panchavati. Now I am back into Sitaram ashram. I see it as a great blessings for a Hanuman devotee to be there in that. And that very temple has a monolithic statue, 15-foot tall Hanumanji, which was installed about 10 or 11 years ago. About 11 years ago. So that is where I'll be moving into. I had not imagined that I would be ending up there. It was not confirmed until last week. So it has to now be geared up. There is one small room, 8 by 10 or 8 by 12. If I put all my books there, then I'll have to sleep outside in the field. So everything from my place of stay, everything has to be now geared towards it. So can I be in touch with all of you? Having gone there, internet hoga, tab ho sakta hai. Upload streams, download streams, you know that. So internet is non-existent right now. So I have to go find all of that, get it all fixed, and then I have to understand what are the needs of that place. I have already explained it on that particular video when I had released it. It is on the YouTube Swami Sarveshananda channel. Hari Om. So Swami Sarveshananda channel, and you can see it as the first video on the upload. This was released in October itself. How many of you have watched that? Hopefully you have watched it. As to the reasons as to why I am planning to go back, why I asked and all of that. all the 9 yards. I have put it in there. So please go watch it again. Recently, I was at somebody's house for Bhiksha, and one fourth grader or fifth grader asked during dinner. He was excited with all the food, and his question was geared towards food. He said, "So what are you going to miss the most?" Saying that, this is the kind of food that I'll miss. So that's what, until then I had not paused to think about it. But then I thought for a while and said, I think probably the most that I will miss are the people that have touched my life. In last 21 years, I must have seen at least 3 or 4 generations that have gone by. My first batch that graduated here as I came in, their children have graduated. I'm not making it up. Their children have graduated. One of the inception families were the Kuras and the Vallurpallis. So Vallurpallis' older sons' children have graduated from Chitrakoot. So I feel like ancient relic, if I say it that way. I've spent like most part of my prominent part of my adult life here in Dallas. Up until then, I have never been in one place more than a year. And this is where I end up coming to live 21 years. So being in touch with all of these generations, I think that is the memory and the strength of that memory with which I go back there. This is not a goodbye, because I might come sometimes to visit. Do you all come to India? Do you come often? So make it a point that you come there and stay with me at least for a couple of days in the ashram. Hopefully the ashram will develop and grow to that extent where many of you at the same time can be hosted. But I'm going into a place where there would not, there is not even internet. What to talk of centralized AC system, there is nothing of that kind. So summers are peculiarly hot. When I say peculiarly hot, it is 115 to 122 for straight 2 months. Rohini and Kartika Masa, the temperatures, Gurudev used to call that place as Blazewada, not Vijayawada. That it is blazing hot. And it will be sweaty, sultry kind of environment because the river flows close by. And the ocean is 47 kilometers away. So it will be sticky, sultry. But if you want to love good mangoes, come in summer. Vijayawada is known for amazing mangoes. You have to bear with the heat. Winters would be pleasant, being in the middle of the paddy fields. It will be very pleasant, very beautiful. But please do come. So I see this continuing and not disconnecting, so no goodbyes. So see you here or see you there, but छोड़ेंगे नहीं. Every ये जाती होगा भाई. First 2 years I don't plan to come back because I want to understand that which is the field where I want to work, and a consistent 2 year at least should be a good investment to put my feet down properly. After that, maybe we'll take it when we get there. We'll cross the bridge when we get there. That ashram can, at this point for the last 24 years, we have been administering bi-weekly, once in 2 weeks, a medical camp where tertiary, they are evaluated, their blood pressure, sugar levels, cataract, or other things are checked. And if there is something serious, they are sent to primary healthcare center, and free medicines and other things are given. We have been doing that for almost 23, 24 years. And people from 27 villages or 20, 26, 27 villages come, which is in a range of 6 to 7 kilometers. But closest is 3.5 kilometers or 4 kilometers away. There is nothing else. So it will serve about 27, 28 villages at any given time. When I did the Pran Pratishtha at the temple, there were about, it was the tail end of the COVID situation, pandemic situation, and still there were about 4,500 people for that Prana Pratishtha. So that is the new update, and next week also we will have satsang. Next week also we will have the satsang, and you don't need to inquire about it. It will be there. Even though I am down with, after the Holi, man, it knocked me out. I had viral fever. Hari has viral fever. Luckily Divya was not there, but she was also down with COVID actually for her brother's marriage. So all three of us coughing, sneezing, sniffling. It was like a jugalbandi yesterday. One stops, then the other begins, then the other begins. When we start coughing, right? So we turned it into music. That is the opening of ta 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 ta. So we are having that competition right now. Hope you are all healthy after that Holi walkathon celebrations. It was. Still we came. So next week bhi rahega aur aayenge. Om Shant Shant Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.